Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're a nursing student, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down the basics of the body's defense systems. And trust me, understanding this isn't just about passing your next exam. It's knowledge you will use literally every single day in your clinical practice.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. Think of it like we're following a bad guy, a pathogen, trying to invade a fortress. We'll start with the basics of the defense system, then look at the outer walls, see what happens when those walls are breached, call in the elite special forces, and finally, figure out how the fortress learns to defend itself better next time.
Okay, first things first. Before we can understand the battle, we need to get familiar with the language. We've got to know the key players and what the battlefield even looks like. So let's start with a couple of key definitions.
So, what in the world is immunology? Well, at its core, it's just the study of how our body defends itself. You can think of it as the science behind our own personal army, how it's trained, how it fights, and how it keeps us safe from things that don't belong. And who's doing all this heavy lifting? Well, that would be your immune system. It's not one single thing, but a whole collection of defenses all working together. It's like your body's own personal security team, and believe me, it is always on guard. All right, let's jump into our first section. We're going to look at how the body stops invaders from even getting inside in the first place. This is our first line of defense, and you can really think of it like the high, strong outer walls of a fortress. Now, these outer walls have two parts. On one side, you've got your physical barriers. These are actual physical structures that block germs from getting in. And on the other side, you've got chemical barriers, which are substances that make the environment just really unpleasant for any invaders.
So let's look at those physical barriers. I mean, the most obvious one is your skin, right? It's a fantastic wall. But we also have mucous membranes that trap stuff, and these tiny little hairs in our airways called cilia that are constantly sweeping gunk out. And then you have the simple, forceful actions of coughing and sneezing. Even things like tears and saliva help to literally wash pathogens away before they can cause trouble.
Now for the chemical side of the wall. The oil and sweat on our skin make it a little bit acidic, which many germs don't like. And if anything gets swallowed, it has to face the super acidic gastric juice in your stomach. Talk about a tough neighborhood. The body even makes specialized chemical weapons, like something called interferon, which basically sounds an alarm that stops viruses from being able to copy themselves. Pretty cool, huh?
Okay, but what happens when a sneaky pathogen actually gets past those outer walls? Well, that's when the body's first responders show up. This is the second line of defense, and it's what we call nonspecific, meaning it attacks any invader it finds.
Now, a key part of this response is a process with a big name, phagocytosis. But don't let the word scare you. It's actually pretty simple if you break it down. Phago means to eat, and cyte means cell, so it literally just means cell eating. It's when a white blood cell finds an invader and just eats it.
And take a look at this. This image shows that cell-eating process in action. You can see the white blood cell, the phagocyte, reaching out to the bacterium. Then it pulls it inside, completely swallowing it. And finally, once it's trapped, it releases enzymes to completely digest and destroy it.
So that whole process we just saw really breaks down into four main steps. First is chemotaxis. That's when chemical signals act like a dinner bell, calling the phagocyte over. Next is adherence, where it grabs on. Then comes ingestion, the actual eating part. And finally, digestion, where the invader gets destroyed for good.
Now this is so important for you as a future nurse. This whole second-line response causes inflammation, and you will see the 5 classic signs of it all the time in your patients: redness, heat, swelling, pain, and sometimes loss of function. Think about an infected IV site. You'll see every one of these. Knowing these signs is absolutely essential for your patient assessments.
But what if those general first responders just aren't enough to stop the invasion? Well, that's when the body calls in the big guns. It's elite specialized forces. This is the specific immune system. And that's where we get to the idea of immunity. Unlike the first two lines of defense, this system is incredibly specific. It's trained to recognize and destroy one particular enemy. And here's the most important part. It has memory. It remembers that enemy forever, so it can fight it off way faster the next time. This elite response is led by two main types of special white blood cells. You have T cells, which are like the battlefield commanders. They manage the whole response and can kill infected cells directly. And then you have B cells. Think of these like the weapons factories. They turn into something called plasma cells, and they pump out these amazing things called antibodies.
So, for our final piece of the puzzle, let's talk about how we actually build this incredible immune memory over our lifetimes. Understanding this part is the key to understanding why things like vaccines are so powerful.
So we can get this long-term immunity in two main ways. On one hand, there's natural immunity. This is what you get just by living life, like when you get sick with something like chickenpox and then you're immune, or when a baby gets antibodies from its mom. On the other hand, there's artificial immunity, which we get through a medical procedure like a vaccine.
Okay, let's add one more layer here. In both of those types, natural and artificial, we have to ask who's doing the work. In active immunity, your body is actively making its own antibodies and memories. This is the good stuff, it's long-term. But in passive immunity, you're just given the antibodies from an outside source. It's helpful right away, but it's only a short-term fix.
And this right here, this is a perfect real-world example of active artificial immunity. It's a typical vaccination schedule for a baby. Each one of those shots introduces a safe piece of a pathogen, which trains the baby's immune system to build its own antibodies in its own memory, all without ever having to get seriously sick. You're going to get very, very familiar with schedules like this in your career.
So let's bring it all home. Our immune system is this incredible, multi-layered fortress. As a future nurse, truly understanding how it all works, from the skin on the outside to the memory cells deep inside, is one of the most important parts of your job. So now I want you to think, knowing about all these layers, how might that change the way you explain why a vaccine is so important to a patient who might be a little hesitant?